show you how to salvage hardwood flooring that has been stapled down with a traditional flooring nailer. The reasons why you might want to reuse some of the old flooring, tools that you can use to do it, different techniques, and about how much you think you can save from the project along the way. So one of the reasons that you may want to salvage flooring in the first place is to use it in a different area of your home where you are taking up flooring, say perhaps to move a wall or a closet, and you want to blend in two different kinds of flooring, an old flooring and a newer flooring, obviously hopefully the same species. But this will allow you to kind of more seamlessly blend the floors together. And this is one particular area where we had to weave in some old flooring with new flooring because there was a coat closet right here, and then along and under the island there was some additional walls that were taken down, so we had to weave in some flooring to between the new and the old flooring, and that's where it became really helpful. What I'm working with today is 2-inch red oak flooring that I'd already started to take up, so you can see what this looks like once you take up the flooring. Along two sides you're going to have a tongue, and then two sides you have a groove that it slots out. This works is you've got two pieces of flooring. One gets a staple driven at a 45-degree angle right above the tongue, and that's laid down into the ground like this, and the next piece goes up, hooks into place, and then that also gets stapled at a 45-degree angle using a flooring nailer. The staples look like this when they come out. So what you'll typically find is along the ends of the room where the flooring goes, you're going to find those first handful of rows, depending on the width of the board, to be face nailed and oftentimes glued. And the reason for that is because the flooring nailer can't fit between the last board that is nailed in the wall, and so they have to go in and face nail them and glue them to the subfloor. And that's the case that we have here. And here are some of the tools that we're going to be using: framing claw hammer, a small pry bar, a Stanley Wonder Bar, which I think everybody should have in their toolbox, a wood chisel, a pair of pliers, and then also a pry bar. So the very first thing we're going to do is grab our wood chisel and our hammer. We're going to start here in the corner of the room and work our way along this wall. So we're going to start with the chisel, and we're going to have the bevel facing down, facing toward you in essence. And we're going to, first thing I do is going to drive that chisel right about the point where the two boards meet. As I mentioned before, this first row is likely going to be both face nailed and glued down. Now that I've got the face nailed flooring out, what I want to try to do is basically wedge underneath the edge of this board, underneath where the tongue is, and try to drive this up a little bit and evenly without damaging the tongue here, which is important to reuse this. So you can see there is, in fact, on this particular board, there is some damage here where you may or may not be able to reuse that, so you want to try to minimize that as much as possible. What I've been doing here is taking a very small pry bar, a thin small pry bar, and driving right near, but not right at, but near each staple that goes in. Enough that I can begin to pry this up, and because of the direction of the nails, pulls out like this. So once you can kind of start the wedge, you can work on either using pry bar to lift it up, or you can use a slightly larger pry bar. If you're like me and you find yourself doing projects at hours that regular people are asleep, you can still do this project just using this. It takes a long time, but you can kind of wiggle it in and get underneath it and pry along the entire section of flooring and have some success without making a ton of noise. So take your small pry bar and put it right under the edge. If you can't get close enough here because of the staple that I have, what you can do is put it just on the other side of that. And then what you want to do, another safety tip, always wear boots. What you want to do is try to drive this underneath just to start to wedge it up a little bit. A little extra. Enough to start it. We'll do it by the next one. I can see here that I've got a little crack, so I'm going to do this pretty close to the staple to try to prevent it from further splitting. So I'm just going to keep doing this all the way down. In fact, you can start to see up here a split forming, which will naturally happen as you start to pry this up. An important thing you'll want to do is right at the seam is to make sure you kind of go about halfway between the two, so you start to lift it up together, because there is going to be a tongue that runs from this board into this board, so you don't want that to snap. That's why I bring both boards up. I mentioned that you could do this job with minimal noise. You definitely can get a small pry bar in there. It's going to be most difficult in that first row, in that first corner, to just like kind of start to pry it up. But once you get a little bit of an edge and you start to get one of the first staples up, you can start to pry it up and make your way along. However, if noise is not an issue for you, you do have the ability to use something like a pry bar or the Wonder Bar. You can still use the small pry bar to get a little bit of a toe hold before using this, but a nice pry bar like this will allow you to go right in underneath the nail where you've started and pry it up nice and quickly. This makes the job go a lot quicker. You might lose some more tongues or grooves along the way just because it's going to be a little bit more of a forceful effort, but it's definitely something that's possible to do without ruining the board. And once you're done with the project and you have all of your flooring removed, then what we're going to do is make sure that you take these staples out. There's a couple of different options. You can use just a pair of dikes to cut them out. You could use a Sawzall. I'm going to show you my preferred method because it doesn't really damage the wood that much and they do come out pretty easily, and that's just simply using a nice pair of sturdy pliers to grab onto one edge of the staple and yank it out. So I'm going to take this staple out here. So just back a little, my foot right here for stability. Grab one side of the staple with the pliers. And there you have the remnants, which is not much larger of a hole than was there for the staple. tongue is intact. I hope you found this video helpful. Stay tuned for more tutorials so you can just do it yourself.